Hi everyone, and welcome to the channel. My name is Infantry Pulse, and today we'll be having an Aether Raids offense showcase for my Fatal Smoke Kronya. Now, Kronya's gotten a lot of flack recently for being outdated or outclassed by other Vantage-type units like Winter Altina, for example, but Fatal Smoke, which was just released on Valentine's Lift, has given her a new lease on life. Fatal Smoke prevents enemies from healing, and Kronya needs enemies to be at low health. So these two skills have very good synergy with each other, and Kronya is a very good user, probably, maybe, possibly the best user, I would argue, of the Fatal Smoke C skill. So before we get into the video, make sure if we get to the end you like the video, give the video a like. If you like the content that we do here, make sure to give the channel a subscribe as well. And below you'll actually find a link to the Discord server that we have for this channel. And there's a lot of great people there, a lot of helpful people that can really help boost your Aether Raids offense, Aether Raids defense capabilities. Without further ado, let's get into our first replay. So here we have a mixed unit team. So we have this Valentine's Lift, ironically, was a very, very powerful unit on defense. You have a legendary Crom, who's also quite spooky. You have Jill here, who's a Rally Trap and Gale Forcer. And the main problem with this is that there are two duo harmonized units on the team. You've got harmonized Dorothea and you've got duo Lift. And they've got the duo's hindrance in the back. So Hector's not going to be able to use his damaging duo skill, right? Which is really unfortunate because that's what we're going to need, because Duma, with where he's located, is actually going to blow up the Bolt Tower. The Bolt Tower is absolutely critical to Kronya's functionality, right? So she really needs that Bolt Tower in order to operate at maximum capacity. So what we're going to do here is, instead of trying to just YOLO it and go in there and do our best and damage the units as much as possible, which is also an option, right? Because of Savage Blow in Kronya's seal slot, she is able to dish out area of effect damage, right? But instead of doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to use Reagan, and we're actually going to push up the left side here, as you see. So Reagan is going to slowly and surely bump up and canto back until we can break that duo's hindrance, right? And then from there, we'll be able to use Hector to hit all of our friends, right? Dorothea will get hit by Kronya's Savage Blow, so she'll be damaged as well. Yeah. And it'll all be good. So that Healing Tower can actually remain up. So Healing Tower is usually Kronya's biggest enemy, but with Fatal Smoke now, it's not really a concern, which is awesome. So you see Hector pops off, he goes ahead and uses his duo skill. Everyone within 3 columns takes 20 damage. We move Kronya forward and smite her forward. We want to smite forward to make sure that we actually break that trap, because that trap actually was real, right? So if I moved onto that, I wouldn't be able to attack here. But since I was smiting up there, I was actually able to get Kronya to attack now, right? And so she applies Fatal Smoke to everyone because of where we attacked Leaf at, right? Leaf was also the Hardy Bearing user, so obviously a Vantage strategy requires you to take out the Hardy Bearing users as much as possible. So Jill's going to do her rally thing, which is not a big deal to us. And then one by one, FMA will go ahead and pop off against all of these units. So I personally use Ruptured Sky Special Spiral to juice Kronya's damage, because her attack is pretty good, but it's not perfect in a lot of ways. It is on the lower side, in fairness. Having both Reagan and Altina boost her attack up by a total of 6 is very, very helpful. And then I also run Attack Tactic, which is also great. So these things for sure help, but the extra damage from Ruptured Sky is quite good, right? And I use Ruptured Sky as opposed to Moonbow because a lot of units have pretty high attack in Aether Raids, especially these nukes are going to have very, very high attack and not great defense. So to boost the damage even more, you want to use, I prefer to use anyway, Ruptured Sky. And so you saw she just popped off the whole team, and then we got to move on, just poking off that Dorothea at the end here. So next up, we have this kind of mixed team that we have. Lots of scary archers. Here, and we have a weaponless Azura, which is important, because that means that Azura is going to dance no matter what. And because of that, that makes that Thrasier in the corner a little bit scary. right? So we're going to try and get around this team as best as possible and snipe these units, but because that Thrasier's in the corner, that makes Naga very susceptible. So we have to make sure that Naga stays safe as much as possible, because Thrasier is probably going to be the target of this dance, right? So we start by noodling the units around as much as possible, getting them all to safe and good spaces. The thing is, I feel very confident that Plumeria and Hector could probably both live through a combat with Thrasier, right? So Hector has Wary Fighter, which is very helpful for him, and Plumeria has very high res and is notorious for being able to live Thrasier's attacks, right? So I have my red units on the right side of the map there as well. I keep Naga safe over there on the left side of the map. So you can see here we broke the enemy Panic Manor with Reagan and then cantoed back, which allowed us then to safely walk up and snipe Claude, which is good because you have to snipe Claude in player phase, right? You don't want to enemy phase into Claude. He's very scary. That's his whole thing. Unfortunately, this team that I'm fighting against does not have any duo units. They can't run duo's hindrance, which means that Hector is very easily able to, you know, just pop off. So here we snipe Claude, super easy on the player phase, right? So that's fine enough, no big deal here. But now we just gotta make sure that no one is gonna be intimidated by Thrasier, right? So we move everyone over as much as possible here.
Yes.
Plumeria, again, is notorious for being able to live Thrasier, so even though she's in a little bit of a precarious situation, she'll be fine. And now we see here that we can just poke down all these units pretty easily with Kronya. So that healing tower would have been super problematic, right? If I had not had Fatal Smoke, that healing tower would have healed them all up, and all these units would collapse on Kronya and she'd be very dead. Extremely dead, exceptionally dead. But instead, what we have here is we have these units able to just come up to Kronya and they can't really do much because she's gonna blow them up before they can even attack her. So Thrasier was at full health, right? So she actually did get an attack off, but it was futile. It doesn't even matter. So now we're just playing cleanup, right? So this is the problem. I say problem, and it would have been the same result either way. But this is the result of having a dancer that is weaponless, right? Is that this is going to make cleanup very, very easy for me now, because I can just walk around and take all the time I need to take these pots out, right? So sometimes taking the pots out becomes like a Herculean task, and it becomes very, very difficult to achieve because of that. And sometimes you have to make some unusual or not great plays in order to try and guarantee that you get the pots. So it's hard, right? So they put the pots in a good place in the back corner where they're hard to snipe. But I usually recommend putting pots in places that people have to really like overextend to get. And because of this dancer that we have here that's weaponless, I can just do whatever I need to, and it's not a big deal at all, right? So, kind of the taunt here, breaking all of the structures, not super necessary, but it was fine. Like, I had the turns to do it. And then Kronya will take out this Azura here at the end and close out the game for us. So next up we have this match that I'm going to call the Mistake. So I was playing through this and I was like, oh, okay, I can Kronya this map, it'll be super easy, right? Not every map is Kronya-able, but a lot of maps are. And I saw this map as being like, oh, okay, I can do this and this and this, and it'll be fine and it'll be great. What I failed to think about is that odd recovery on Loki here is problematic because it cleanses away Fatal Smoke's debuff, right? And that triggers before Healing Tower does, which is... Time to kill? Yikes. So, you gotta make sure that you know, like, the order of operations, as it were, when it comes to these skills. So, like, Infantry Pulse, Grand Scratcher, Odd Recovery, Healing Tower, Bolt Tower, they all go off in different orders. You just gotta make sure that you know those things. And although in my head I was like, yeah, I got it, it'll be fine. I did not think hard enough about it, truthfully. Luckily, I was able to still live this, which is really great. You'll also notice that in a lot of these, I have to creatively use these positional assists, so I have to reposition in with Reagan, and then smite forward with Altina here. That's why having a variety of those movement assists is better for you. So you want to have a large variety of reposition, swap, smite, dance, all this kind of stuff, so you have as much versatility as possible on your team to make sure that you can wiggle around in these tighter spaces here. So because I was able to take out the Valentine's Leaf, I am actually able to use Halloween Hector's duo skill, which is great, so then we can deal damage. And I say it's great, but I also do that now realizing, oh, oops, I made an oopsie, because now we're going to have to deal with Odd Recovery, right? So fortunately, Krom does not die to that. And neither does Kronya, right? So Kronya's going to take some damage here, but she's going to live on 14 health, and that's fine, because Krom is now in Wings of Mercy range, that means I take out all these other units, because they're going to try and attack into Kronya. And Krom being where he is on the map right now, then body blocks Loki. So this was very lucky. I'm not going to say it was calculated or good, because it wasn't, and that would be a lie. It was very lucky. We're very happy it turned out this way. So after taking out Loki now it's pretty much just waiting. Not really waiting, but like getting set up to take out the pots, right? So this is what I was talking about in the last map. This is a good placement for the pots because they're in places that are super threatening, right? So they're in these back corners where units are going to threaten you pretty much no matter what. Even when we're just down to 2 units here, their threat range is still covering pretty much that entire area, right? So Thrasier will rally, and then Krom will come forward and try to do something to Kronya and fail, which is sad for Krom. But that's great for me, so can't be mad at it. So again, now we're just going to keep wiggling around and getting everyone ready to take out these pots. So with a ranged unit, you can snipe over that wall and take that pot. So that's obviously, like, you have to think about your structure placement as well, but that might not be the best placement for the pot because you can just snipe it over the wall, over the lake, right? And because mistakes were the theme of this, I smite forward with Kronya, and then I realize, oh no, I haven't tested these heavy traps. So I know that the bolt trap on the left is real, because I've already tested the bolt traps, and I know that the one I smited Kronya onto earlier was fake. So I know that bolt trap's real, can't step on that bolt trap. Either the heavy traps, though, could be real. So I don't want to walk forward, but then I just realized, like, oh, I can just smite forward again. So that's what we do there. We smite forward again. Kronya can take out Thrasier, and it's fine. Just took me a second to think about that. So again, these positional assists and making sure your units are close to each other are super great. Your team should have smites. Smites are so good in Aether Raids. They really are helpful. So next up, we have this another mixed team here with a pretty threatening Reinhardt, and then also a Pirate Tibarn. So those units are good because they provide high threat priority. Tibarn has Gale Force as well, which is super great because then he can continue to provide threat. But also because one is hitting resistance and one is hitting defense, right? One is magic and one is physical. So we have nice overlap there, as it were. So we're going to start out by clearing out these decorations. So even though it looked like Plumeria is safe there, once Pirate Tibarn transforms, she will not be safe there, so we have to smite her out of the way, which is fine. So now we're just going to wiggle a little bit. We're going to leave that arch up, that birthday arch up, just because I'm a little bit nervous about Pirate Tibarn has higher defense than the rest of these units, and so if he does end up getting a Gale Force off, I don't want him to have such an easy time. Obviously, I'm going to say that, and then it's going to be pretty obvious, like, well, Imagery Pulse, if he did get Gale Force, he would just hit your Plumeria. And yes, true, but it made me feel better, okay? It made me feel better to leave the arch up. So we go and we snipe Micaiah. Micaiah has built-in Hardying Bearing on her weapon, so I didn't want to take any damage from her. Also, because of her placement, I actually was able to put both Savage Blow and Fatal Smoke onto the Dorothea, which means Dorothea now can't go and hit Kronya if she wanted to. I keep Hector kind of out of the way, tucked away, because we can't use his duo skill, right? So this is a good example of, even though I brought the duo skill, I'm not able to use it because of Duo's hindrance and Dorothea being where she is on the map. So it's really hard to snipe that Dorothea, and we don't really need, super need anyway, that 20 extra damage from Hector. So Kronya's gonna go around. You'll notice that the Reinhardt was able to live and also deal a good amount of damage to Kronya. That is fine, honestly. Kronya standing on a defensive tile gives me a lot of hope, as it were, that she's able to live these. Kronya's defensive stats are also pretty good. So with Naga boosting up her defense, her physical defense that is, and then her resistance being naturally high, and her HP being incredibly high after Quad Mythic, she's able to tank a lot of hits, honestly. So even though she's built to do this Vantage thing and one-shot people, she's also good to take some hits, right? So, we're able to take out the whole team except for that Reinhardt, which is good, because now Reinhardt's in a unfortunate position that we can just body block him. And this is something that I think we don't think about enough. I know we see, a lot of people see stream people do this a lot and block people in, but I think often we just forget about it in context, or at least when I'm watching people play Aether Raids, they forget that you can just trap people in. And so even though Reinhardt is a very threatening unit, he's not threatening anyone right now because he just can't. He's just not in a place where he can. So we set up, we reposition across with Reagan, we get out the pots set up, and then we can take out Reinhardt with Kronya and close out the match. I will say on this map, they do a really good job with using the Desert Ruins map to block in their Dorothea, so you can't snipe her, and Duo's hindrance pretty much has to stay up. So next up, and finally, we have an Infantry Pulse team. And I thought I'd close out an Infantry Pulse team because it's the channel, right? So this is an Infantry Pulse team here. It's one that I'm relatively familiar with. It's a variation on a pretty common map, truthfully. And it's one that I have used quite a bit. So looking at it, I know this map's strengths and weaknesses right away, and I can kind of exploit that. So although this is like a good map, and it's one that I truthfully still use, a variation on it anyway, because it is common, I am familiar enough with it that I know its counters. So that is the downfall of using one of these copy pasta kind of maps, is that although they're good and they're successful and they're pretty consistent, you run into this problem of people are going to know exactly what this map is and how to counter it, right? I know that's like a common issue with return traps right now as well, or dancer traps. Looking at it, when I see the Dancing Sigurd, when I see, you know, the Sarah, you know, with her Kia staff, I know exactly what's coming, and so I can prepare for it, right? So unprepared players are going to be caught, element of surprise, all that kind of stuff. But your better players are going to be able to look at it and say, like, oh, I know what this is, here's what I need to do to beat it. And that's honestly, truthfully, it is easier said than done, right? Even if you're familiar with a map, and even if you super know how it's going to work, there you could still mis-execute the plays. You can still, just mess up, right? But anyway, so I'm able to reposition and smite across the map, moving Kronya a good number of spaces across the map, to get her into position to then take out this Kagero, right? And so the problem is here that Sonya is +10, which is awesome for this guy. Sonya's a great unit and really underestimated, especially in Infantry Pulse team. So we're able to take out the Kagero, right? But Sonya has Hardy Bearing, and so Sonya is actually going to hit for a lot of damage, But the thing is, Kronya has good res, she has very high HP, and so although her job is to Vantage, she can tank too. And so that's where the problem happens for, you know, these Hardy Bearing type units. And so this team did a good job of having two Hardy Bearing units. They had the Hardy Bearing Dagger on Kagero, and they had Hardy Bearing Seal on Sonya. So they did a good job. They did what they were supposed to. It's just a little unfortunate that it played out the way it did, right? So, we're just going to break some structures here. Kronya is going to be baiting out Thrasier. Thrasier is still very damaged, and because we broke the healing tower, she doesn't have a method to heal. And so, Thrasier will come over and just get blown up by Kronya. Thrasier's a great unit, but she is susceptible to Vantage because she doesn't want to run Hardy Bearing, right? So Hardy Bearing has anti-synergy with Killing Intent, and so she doesn't want to run both those things at the same time.
Yes.
So here we're just going to check to see if we can kill with Naga, and she actually doesn't kill. She doesn't double this Sylvia. So we're going to have to wiggle around to try and get that pot back there in that corner. Because I had to set up in such a weird way to get Kronya to smite across the whole map to take out that Kagero, a lot of my units are mispositioned right now, right? So it would have been really easy to just run up the right side, take that pot, reposition back, and then just like plunk with a pulse smoke unit. Like Bronya, for example, is my pulse smoke unit in this season. But because I'm using this Kronya, I have to kind of play a little bit more creatively, a little bit differently, right? Fortunately now, we are able to get everyone into a position still where we can dance forward, break that pot, and then use Altina to take out Sylvia. And that will bring our last replay to a close. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching. Again, if you like the channel, give the video a like, subscribe, and I will see you guys all later. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!